Let's get this show started. I'm going to go ahead and call to order this Kerrville City Council workshop for August 25th, 2026. Do we have anybody signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's go ahead and start with item 2A. Mr. Paxton.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm actually going to let our Animal Control Officer, Mr. James Lee, present this to you guys.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Council, how are you?
Good to see you.
I hope to be brief, informative, and if I'm lucky, I might stumble on being entertaining. All right, shall we? All right, so this is a red line and update of our animal ordinance, which is section 18 of the ordinance. Our purpose is to make sure that all of our animal ordinances are in line with the Texas Health and Safety Code, Chapter 821, which is the Texas state animal laws. Further expanding definitions to avoid legal ambiguities or loopholes that we may have had in the past.
Turn it on.
And to better define the rules pertaining to feral cats and the guidelines for registered feral cat caregivers.
There we go. Have to turn it on. Sorry, technical difficulties up here.
No worries.
So used to have everything done.
So the covered topics will be amended definitions, ones that we're just changing a little bit. Anything that we've added, additional definitions, ordinance expansions, things that were already in ordinance that maybe we're adding something to give it a little bit more depth. Terminology changes, as well as the feral cat ordinance updates and the feral cat colony contract, which we'll get to at the end. All right, so some of the definitions that we've amended is abandonment. We added a fourth subsection to it that covers abandonment of an animal at a residence due to non-occupation. So basically someone moves out of their house and leaves the animal behind. We now have something to cover that, which we didn't before. We have updated the definition of at large to add more details to it, covering when an animal is considered at large. By the way, in the manila envelopes next to you guys, you'll find a copy of all the animal ordinance updates, as well as a copy of the cat contract for the feral cat contract. Cat, under the definition of cat, we've added 8 new subsections of defining terminology, like ear tipping, feral cat, just ones that we didn't have defined in there clearly, but now they're subsections under cat. Dangerous dog, we added subsection 3, which ties it to the state definition. That's pretty simple. Requirements for owner of dangerous dog, we did an amendment to the insurance policy amount, upping it from $100,000 to $500,000. Owner, we vastly expanded the definition of owner because ours was kind of woefully underdefined compared to other cities. So we've expanded that one quite a bit. It now covers a larger definition of what ownership can be, since there's a lot of different ways that somebody can own an animal commercially, for show, emancipated minors, you name it, it's covered in there now. Restraint, we've covered that better. It better defines the parameters of what constitutes the restraint of an animal. And under tethering, we've added some verbiage pertaining to property limits, because with tethering, there's some distance and length things due to state law. But if those distance and lengths allow the animal to go past property limits, we've now added language which covers that, saying that they can't. The tether should not let them leave the property line. Oh, you jumped back. There we go. Additional definitions. Animal dealer, we didn't have one for that. We now have that defined in there. Animal establishment, that's for pet stores, things like that. We now have that in there. Animal exhibition, think circus or some type of show where you're gonna have trained animals. That's now in there. Animal services facilities, for some reason we didn't have that, but now we do. Assistance animal, we now have that clearly defined in there. And the term pet animal, which, so if somebody declares it a pet, we now have a definition of what that means. And then the definition for quarantine, which of course would be tied to like a zoonotic disease or rabies containment type thing. Ordinance expansions, like that little guy's belly there. So we have 1831, which is nuisances originally. We are now making it public nuisances. We've added a couple of subsections to that, adding some new clarifications under there of different things that could be considered nuisances, giving us a little bit more enforcement opportunity on situations that we didn't have in the past if we need it. 1832, feral cat management. We've clarified some new rules in there that will tie to the feral cat contract, as well as removing the term community. They're now feral cats, not community cats. Legal ambiguity there because community cats assumes that the community owns these cats. We do not, they're feral. 1855, requirements for owner of a dangerous dog. We've expanded that one a little bit too. Again, that goes back to that insurance policy update. 76, animals left in vehicles. We've updated to that. We added to the end of it some definitions of what enforcement officers are now that the city has an animal control officer, as well as, we lost our screen there. As well as a bit of definition at the end of it, clarifying that if you leave an animal in a hot car in a parking lot and an enforcement officer has to break the window in the case of getting the animal out to rescue it, that it is the responsibility of the owner to deal with the damage, not the city.
Let me interrupt real quick on that.
Sure.
See it too often in town, animals left and dogs left in the vehicle with the windows down, or windows up and the car running with the owner in a store somewhere.
Sure.
At what point, I mean, obviously if there's an animal in the vehicle and it's not running and there's no AC going, that's obviously a phone call to
Right.
somebody.
Yep.
But also, I think, I'm not a police officer, I'm not a lawyer, but also I think that it says, I might know somebody who was a police officer at one time, but if you leave your vehicle running and you're not in it, that's not really legal either, correct?
I'm unclear of or unaware of any law in Texas that says that you're unable to leave your vehicle running
Like
with you not in it.
abandonment
I'm not aware of any law. I was a police officer 10 years, but out in California, not here. But as far as I know in Texas, it's not illegal to do that. I know a lot of people do that. They leave their cars on with their air conditioners running. That's fine.
Remote start, I understand, but
Sure.
like, anyway.
But-
At what point does that become something that needs to be a concern of a citizen or anybody who sees it, even if the windows are up and the car is running?
Right,
Because
so we
you don't
have-
know if the AC is actually on or not.
Sure, we
So-
do have defined actually in that subsection certain temperature degrees. So 75 degrees or higher within the car starts to become a concern. Now, the animal obviously isn't going to be distressed right away. However, over time, at anything above that temperature, it will be within a danger zone. And so that's why we carry, or at least I carry, a thermal thermometer in my vehicle. So if I get a call saying, hey, there's a dog over here, I can shoot a temperature inside that car, immediately know what temperature it is, and then I can look at the condition of the dog based on my training and say, okay, I'm seeing signs of, health concern and or not. That will then tell me, okay, how much time do I have to work with this situation? Is it a break the window, get the animal out right away for its care? Or is it, okay, now we can go inside the store and make an announcement and try and get an owner out here and deal with this? So we use those kind of informed sections of script to follow to say, okay, this is what we're going to do based on the amount of time we have and the temperature and the condition of the animal. Does that answer your question
It
clearly,
does, yes, sir. So,
Okay,
thank
perfect.
you.
1877, animals in trucks and trailers. So that, again, talks to a bit of that as well. If we added some stuff in there, just again, to clarify those languages and when they can be in trucks and trailers and kind of how they can be in the backs of trucks or trailers or can't be and how they have to be secured, all those types of things. 1891 covers fowl. That section for the chickens we allow in the city it was underdefined as to how to keep the chickens. So we've added sections to the back of that to make sure that the chickens are secured. They're not just running out in the street, which you will commonly see in the Doyle District area. Those things have to be kept in the backyard, not the front yard, so it's not an eyesore in the front. All those types of things are now defined, that those cages are, again, of adequate size for the animals so that they're not being tortured by it. Those types of things are all now included and specified in there to kind of make that a little bit clearer for chicken owners. Rabbits, 1891, we added just a little bit of language for both rabbits and ferrets pertaining to the conditions or things that can come out of the keeping of those that would make it some type of nuisance. So if I look it up, I'm going to forget, but it was stuff like water, dust, splashing smells, things that could come from the keeping of those, that if they're not being maintained well, would cause a nuisance and then allow us to then step in and say, okay, you need to change what you're doing here with your animals. So, but it's pretty much the same for both rabbits and ferrets and chicken. It was added actually to all three. So that's our expansions. And then terminology changes. So again, I kind of covered that earlier. Community cats will now be feral cats due to the legal terminology of that. Not a real big deal. And then, of course, feral cat giver will change as well instead of community cat caregiver. Feral cat management ordinance update. So we did change that section a bit. It lacked refinement of measurable markers to hold registered caregivers accountable for the needed program standards. The whole standard behind having feral cat colonies is to stop the breeding of these animals, which means we need to trap, neuter these animals. We need to get them vaccinated. We return them, but they also need to be controlled so that they're not in businesses. They're not in the parking lots. They're not being fed on someone else's property. All those types of things. Those things have now been added, the standards. And then you can see down here, addition of several subsections clearly defined the guidelines of the colonies. Also adds enforcement measures for us should the compliance continually fail to meet the standards that we set. They also help us make sure that the management of this program is successful, because we want it to be successful. We want to control the population of the feral cats, but also we want to take care of the cats, right? We don't want to be mean to them. We don't want to have to euthanize them. We want to be able to take care of those, and especially for our caregivers who spend a lot of their time to help these animals, a lot of their money to get them spayed and neutered. So, but we need to manage it carefully for the program to be successful. So that's kind of what these new ordinances do, is put tighter guidelines on that to make sure that we can make sure it's successful and that they're following those guidelines. The feral cat colony contract. So currently we had what we call the community cat registry, which is where kind of anyone could just sign up and say, I'm going to feed the cats, because it is against our ordinance to feed feral cats. However, if somebody signed one of these, they could just go to wherever these cats were living and start feeding them. That held them to no standards like the ones I just talked about. They could do it wherever the cats were, whether it was on someone else's property, someone's parking lot, along the river, wherever it might be. This turns it into a contract with the city, and it specifies all the rules, regulations, and measurable timelines needed to manage these colonies correctly, as well as the oversight measurements that I will have, to have enforcement measurements, so that if they are not following these guidelines, if they're not meeting these deadlines, if they're doing things they shouldn't in places they shouldn't, we now have enforcement standard to correct that. These are community partners, of course, Kerr Pets Alive and the Big Fix. They're instrumental in all of our pet stuff within the city. They're great community partners. I love working with them. I was able to go over all these things with them ahead of time and get their feedback, and it was overwhelmingly pretty positive to get their support, which was great. They want these programs to work as well, and I think that they understood pretty clearly that if we don't manage it correctly using these new guidelines, that it will fail, and then the city and the state would have no option but to revert to old ways, which was just euthanize en masse. So they're pretty happy with that. Some of them are here tonight. Thank you guys for being here. All right, so next steps. City Council, there we go. So we have if everything's successful tonight, we'll have our readings in September there, 8th and 22nd, where you guys can vote on that. And then we'll pause here for questions. Like I said, I'll accidentally stumble into being entertaining. It's not on purpose, I assure you.
Could you tell me your name? Because I don't know that I've met you.
I don't think we have. My name is James Lee, Officer James Lee.
And when it's time, I have some questions.
Absolutely.
Go
Right
ahead,
now is
please.
the time, please.
Okay, so this is wonderful. This makes me feel better. I mean, it helps me sleep at night. I love animals. I have animals. I love the Kerr Pets Alive organization. I think they do wonderful things in our community.
Agreed.
But I do have a concern, since we have the county who does, I would say, maybe something totally different or not at all like this. And I'm concerned that we're doing a part of things well, but the big picture needs some attention.
Sure.
I would love your advice as to what would be my next step. I plan to take a tour of the county animal shelter, which I actually have not had yet, and just see how things work there. But I was going to actually ask someone to kind of chauffeur me around and just not walk in. But do you have any comments about that, your relationship with them, and has it been a good working relationship, or has it had some challenges?
Absolutely. No, since day one, I recognized coming into this position that the partnerships with our community partners like Kerr Pets Alive, Big Fix, as well as the county, were going to be absolutely important because none of us are equipped, manpowered. None of us have enough to do this on our own. We have to work as a team or this won't work. Um, I am a state certified animal control officer. I can do all the things that they can do. However, my duties here have been focused more on the animal ordinance side, which has actually worked out really quite well with them, whereas they're focused on the regular side of things. And so we kind of team up, and we will commonly go to calls together to where I can hit things from the ordinance side and they can hit things from the criminal side if needed. And we do that a lot. I actually backed up an animal control officer for the county today. I was actually out doing code work follow-up for the code enforcement department. And I saw an animal officer out on a call, and she was all alone, and she was out with two individuals. One of them was holding a knife. It was just a tree saw branch, but he wasn't holding it to be threatening. He just didn't realize he was still holding it. But I stopped, I got out, I backed her up, I asked him to drop it, and he did. And then we were able to continue the call, and everything went just fine. But, she was very grateful for that. So it's one of those situations where we're going to partner as much as possible to create the best animal situation in the county that we can for city or county. I would say our relationships have been very, very strong. The constable who runs the program over there, Reagan Gibbons, lives right down the street from me. We're actually friends, so that helps a lot too. My partnership with the police department has been very good. Chief Gerald actually was the chief in the city I used to live in at the same time when I was a police officer there, but for a different city. We didn't even realize it till we moved however many states away and lived here and met. So we have a great relationship now too. So far, all the partnerships have been extremely, extremely good. Really,
Good to
really good.
hear.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is great.
Good, sir.
Crystal?
Yes. So to echo what Delane said, I think Kerrville Pets Alive and the Big Fix do excellent work in our community, but I think you have bad actors in the community who are not necessarily giving them a bad name, but are negating the work that they're doing.
Correct.
So I just have some questions.
Sure.
On the feeding in the areas 25 yards away from any parking lot or commercial building, is that whichever is furthest? Or?
Yes. The goal is, it's to keep the animals away from the parking lot for their own safety so they don't get run over by cars, but also to keep them away from the businesses and the people. Obviously, if they're running food establishments, let's say, we don't want them there because there's a health code concern, right? So, and it can be disruptive to the business if they're begging or doing things that animals do, those types of deals. So all these rules, again, that you're seeing like there in the contract, these are rules to address things that are currently happening, to stop them from happening and give us enforcement options against groups, as you said, that are bad actors, that aren't following these guidelines.
Okay.
So, but hopefully moving forward as well, any new colonies and things will be, they'll know these rules up front. The public education will be there through me because everything will have to roll through me. So I will approve of these colonies based on those rules.
Okay.
Is it this far from a business? Is it on private land that you own or have permission to? Is it, we'll go through all of that before the city ever agrees to sign a contract with them allowing them to do this.
Okay. Is there a fine for not registering as a colony?
There isn't currently, no. There's no existing fine other than they would be violating the city ordinance of feeding feral cats if it's within city limits. In which case, yes, we have a process that we go through in the code department, which is where animal control falls right now, where there's a 3-warning system. They're warned once, we check back in a week. If they're still doing it, they're warned again. On the third one is a final warning, and then it's a citation. That citation can be anywhere from $200 up the way to $2,000, depending on the judge and the grievance of how many times and what they're doing.
Okay.
So that would be the process we would currently follow to punish somebody who's just refusing to go along with the rules.
Okay. I would like to make a suggestion on this
Sure.
contract that, having had to deal with this myself,
Yes.
anyone can sign this last page and say, yes, I apologize.
That's all right.
Time to pick up my child from school. So being that anyone can say, yes, this property has allowed me to feed these cats, I think the property owner should have somewhere on here saying that they're allowing this person to do so.
Right, and that's why this will filter through me now as the sole manager of the program. When they come to ask for one of these, I am the one who will vet all that with them.
So then
So
you're
when-
gonna call the property owner?
Exactly.
Okay.
They will have to provide that permission via phone call, or I'll have to go out and look at it, whatever it might be. That will all go through me to vet all that before they're allowed to sign this.
Okay. And then I think 15 cats is too much.
Yeah,
Having seen it in person,
sure.
that's it's a lot.
Right, and I know there's ones in the past, some of the ones that are grandfathered currently have many, many more than that. And so that was kind of the thing, is we didn't really know where to draw the line, we kind of went back and forth. Do we make it a dozen? Do we make it 15? Do we make it this? Do we make it that? So we kind of came up with that number arbitrarily. We thought, what could one person reasonably manage? Like how many cats in an area? 15 kind of seemed like a reasonable number. Like, okay, that's a reasonable amount of cats to manage as far as one person. And maybe a backup, because they are allowed to sign a backup person on here in case they fall ill or in the hospital. They can have a second signatory here as a backup that we put on the sheet, the registration sheet, so that if something happens to them, the duties immediately follow that next person. So that's kind of where we were at with the 15. But it is arbitrary. It can be changed. It's not hard. It's just what we kind of came up with that we thought was reasonable.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank y'all, Kerrville Pets Alive, and the Big Fix for all y'all do.
Go ahead.
Officer Lee, on Councilmember Smith's question,
Mhm.
I know of a colony, Brenda, you know of the colony I'm talking about off of Rolling Green and Burkdale. It's not on somebody's property, it's actually in a easement where Camp Meeting Creek is, so it's basically state waterway, how would you go, I mean, it's established, the cats are all clipped and snipped and spayed and
Sure.
taken care of, but how would you go, would you have to call the state to say, hey, there's a cat colony on state property, or would you just
So
go to the
when
closest person that's taking care of them?
Yeah, if it's uncontrolled land like that belongs to the state, we're probably not going to follow up on it. Now, if it's city property, we can obviously do that. We're the city. We can find out and say, okay, do we want to allow this here or not? When it's state property, we're probably not going to chase it as long as it's not a problem as far as it's not near a business, it's not disturbing a neighborhood nearby, if it's just some unrestricted area and the cats are isolated to that, that's a little bit of part of the goal. We don't want them in an area where they're going to disturb the population in some way. So if they're happy in that kind of open space and it's not hurting anything in the area in any way, ecologically or anything like that, then yeah, we're not going to chase it. Now, if it becomes a problem for some reason, if a red flag is raised by a certain party, then we can take those steps and dig into it. But otherwise, we probably wouldn't if it's just open land like that.
They're happy and everybody's happy with them, so it's cool.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, yeah.
Anything else? Anybody who came tonight would like to speak? Come on up, please. State your name and city for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Beth Patterson. I'm the assistant cat coordinator for Kerrville Pets Alive. I need your business cards in my pocket. I need a lot of them.
Sure.
This orange shirt is my ticket to wherever I go, and my partners in crime, the Big Fix, I hand out their business cards. We work very hard together, and I constantly have people go, you have to register a colony? And this is so new, and so I need a reference. I need them. These are not people that necessarily get online.
Right.
So where are you? They are Facebook kind of people.
Mhm.
Do you have information going out that I can tag?
Yes, so I can give you plenty of my business cards to put out there. We just finally got them, so we
Yeah.
can do that. I'll give you a
Oh,
stat.
mine are old too, so.
Sure. Also, yeah, so public education is a very big part of this new program. I'm working with Martin. We're trying to get a lot of things done. We'll be at Bark in the Park. We'll be at the new Kerrville Pets Alive grand opening to answer questions and just let people know in general that, hey, the city has this program now. Like, we're out there, we're enforcing the ordinances. I took 2 roosters from a guy the other day, had roosters in the city. He said, I've had them for years. No one told me they weren't allowed here. I says, well, they weren't allowed here. I says, they just
Did
never
they go
had
to
anybody
animal
enforcing
control?
it. Yeah, so.
I saw them.
Yeah, so we are here now and we're enforcing these things. So a lot of people just need to learn that we're here and that we're doing these things now. And so that'll be a big public education push. And we're working with all the partner agencies to do that.
Okay, myself and Big Fix and KPA partners are in KCAS every day. And so we have partnerships with, I've been doing this for 5 years. We have personal relationships with every ACO except for the new guys. And so I personally will pick up the phone and say, Daisy, there's a dog on so-and-so, and it hasn't gotten on the radio or whatever. I feel good about that. But in the city, I'm a county resident. So I'm anxious to see this progress. I live off of Upper Turtle Creek, and I want to make sure this happens. I'm now connected on the emergency system. I have a repeater on my property.
Okay.
And so I'm connected in that environment. I want to make sure that everybody knows. And if you want to come at some point or get Reagan to come and explain this from their perspective, that you're doing this together. I have a colony that I am working with that has been established and has been there for over 20, 30 years. And he definitely has more than 15 cats. So I'd like to see that 15 expand to the county if it's ever possible. I'll be real curious to see how far we go.
Yeah, so I am working with them, and a lot of the things that we're establishing here within the city are having the positive effect of bleeding over to the county, even as far as how I've equipped myself for this position. They've kind of seen the benefits of defensive equipment and things like that, and protection, like a vest. I wear a vest when I'm out in the field. And they've seen that benefit for their officers, so they're starting to do that. As
Good.
far as rules and the county's
That's gonna
ordinances
work
and
its
rules,
way.
yeah, I think we'll see some of that happen as well, where
Okay.
when we establish certain rules, they may follow, they may not. That's up to the county commissioners, of course, and then Reagan, who's running that program. But the positive relationship we've had so far is kind of leaning towards, let's do this together, let's work together, let's all get on the same page, operate the same way.
Okay.
That way we can work hand in hand and there's no hangups.
I worked on college campuses for 13 years, and so I know data for everything that you need, like grant writing and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be excited to see that information. Thank you for being here. We greatly appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
I have one more thing,
Sure.
I guess.
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like to kind of piggyback on Councilmember Smith's suggestion about getting written permission to be on the property. I think it's fine to check, but people's memory and people, I think having it in writing. would be-
It's absolutely simple enough to add that to the
Yeah.
contract and just have a second signatory for the property owner if it's somebody different. We can absolutely do that, no problem.
Anybody else? Anybody else from either of the groups? All right. It's odd that someone is not taking a chance to speak to us.
Come on up.
Please step to the mic and say your name.
Good. Thank you for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
I have one small typo I'll show you after.
Oh, sure, thank you.
So soon.
All right, anything else on this item? Let's move on then to the next item, which I don't have in front of me. Item 2B, Mr. Hornis.
Mayor and council, I'm excited to follow that. I haven't gotten a chance to spend too much time with Officer Lee yet, so that was a pleasant, that was nice to see. Well done. Okay, so we're gonna talk a little bit about flood in a couple of different phases. So I'll do some overview stuff, and then Kelly Hagemeyer from Kerr Together, no longer the city of Kerrville, is here tonight, and she's gonna talk a little bit about Kerr Together's process and what they're doing. And then the following item is kind of a continuation of that, and David and Julie will talk about the debris pickup. So without further ado, so immediate response is over, right? So it's recovery at this point. This seems like old hat for us, and I'm sorry about that, but we kind of know where this is headed. Our city services are operating as they normally do. We have some hiccups. We do have some temporary issues that we're working through, but I think with the exception of James Avery campus out on Harper, Everybody's water and sewer connections are as they are. Staff is in the process of temporarily fixing that water line extension to James Avery, so they'll be back up and running. They won't notice the difference. It's still a temporary fix on our end. So that's kind of that's the disruption I think we see in the utility side. A lot of work left in the creeks, a lot of work left on the riverside, and a lot of future projects coming our way from an infrastructure standpoint. State continues to be here. I think they're operating a lot of their activity on last year's flooding. They have been a guidance for us during this time, but the presence is different this year than it was last year, right? You can feel that. You can kind of see it. Federal assistance, we're still waiting. I think the process is compiling all of the damage assessments for all the counties that were affected in Texas and putting those all together as one package to go to President's desk. I think that is what's happening. And so we're continuing to push. Mayor was at a meeting last Friday, I believe, with reps from Congressman Roy's office, or Congressman Roy was there, I believe, to kind of keep pushing. And so I think that's what we can do at this point, is continue to advocate for ourselves, talk to our neighbors, continue to advocate for themselves as well. The state is pushing. I see we have that conversation, not daily, but almost daily, where we're at. You get tired of asking, but you keep asking. Yes.
Do things like what happened in Hawaii and the flooding in Indiana and other, natural disasters that are happening now after July 16th affect that?
It's hard to speculate on it, but I think it does. I think there's severity levels, right? I think when you have loss of human life, I think the responses are different. I think they are faster, right? And then it scales, because when they're looking at it, if they're seeing this week there's something here, the next week something here, the next week something here, and you get all of those requests simultaneously. I'm not sure the process, the methodology by which it's approved or disapproved, but you have 50 states and all the territories all asking for federal dollars, pocketbooks to be opened up. So it is a complicated process. Now, what I do understand is that while we see this as a delay in a federal response, because last year we had such an immediate turnaround, it does take a while to get those declarations. So I think two of the biggest facets of it are, we talk about it all the time, is individual assistance and public assistance. So if FEMA opens up those two tranches of funding, that opens up different avenues for both families, and community members living in town, as well as for us, and what's available for us. We do have a significant philanthropic community. The dollars that came through for this flood, I think a lot of their donation fatigue is a real thing. $150 million plus was donated in last year's flood. I believe part of that money that's going to this year's flood. One of the weird, not weird, IRS regulation stipulation is that, Community Foundation has to get approval from those donors to utilize that money from last year to this year, which is another step. And I think they had more than 100,000 donors. It's a lot of people to reach out to. But they've gotten some money out thus far, and some of those programs are operating and getting assistance out to people. We're going to keep working with Kerr together as kind of our official long-term recovery group, and so we meet with them on a weekly basis, talk to them all the time about what's available, how can we help, and they reciprocate and ask me, when are we going to handle the debris? And so both of our answers have been, we're working on it. And so what you'll see tonight is that we are implementing and not just working on it. Again, TDM and DPS are operating. There will be another barge. There will be another crane. They're putting that stuff back out there as we speak. Those things are in place, and so those operations continue. Our water and wastewater, again, our systems are operational, although not, as we want them to be, right? The crews that work for David Barrera are magicians, and they will make these things work, and they will, duct tape a thing, officially duct tape with a clamp and all TCEQ approved. But they can, I mean to say they can work magic. Repairs on Town Creek are going well. For the water and wastewater, the repairs on the road is a significantly different conversation, although they have done a lot of work. And the streets crews are here today, sitting right there, and they are rock stars, all of them. There are still some issues with access and a few crossings. We know about those. Arcadia Loop Bridge, big one. Town Creek has some crossing issues. Obviously, there's major damage throughout that. We have a large transmission line, a few that cross at the water treatment plant that are transmit water from the treatment plant into town. Those were, I don't know, 5 to 10 feet below the bed of the river when they were built. And that water has been scoured a little bit, and they're no longer that deep. And so it came to light when the barge went over the river. As they were pulling some of their material back out, scoured one of the lines, which happens, then that was fine. We were able to fix it, but it highlighted this larger project that will be a future probably a future FEMA project is what we are planning for. But we don't want to have that line so close to the surface of the water, not to the surface of the water, but to the bed. And so I think those are a couple of our biggest projects that we're looking at, obviously, are the bridge, that transmission line, Town Creek, River Trail, big components. We'll talk about those. Knapp and Cypress are returning to public use. The River Trail does remain closed, although we've had a huge volunteer outpouring from folks with heavy equipment who came out and did a lot of work over the last few weeks. And I know Jay will get mad when I say this, but the River Trail's closed, but we see people out there walking. So if you're amongst those who are trespassing, let's say, there has been a lot of work, and I think you'll be able to see the work that has been done. There's a significant amount of movement in that river rock. Every time you drive over the bridge and you look down at Louise Hayes Park, you'll see a lot of that right there. And that's all up and down the river. So in that, we have areas that we still need to fix, a lot of cavitations, a lot of areas where the drop-offs are as high as this desk, sometimes as high as the dais there. And so we can't open that up until we mitigate that, because it's just too much of it's too dangerous. We don't want somebody to go out there and trip and fall. Again, the volunteers this time around, I think that's going to be a big delta for us this year, is that we don't have the disaster declaration. We still have to get all this stuff done. Our teams are working hard at getting the things that we can do done, but the volunteers are seeing a gap, and they're filling that gap. So with heavy equipment, with just volunteers coming to pick up trash, I know Lisa Nysaladin and a bunch of her friends have been out cleaning up Town Creek. Just every couple of days, they're out there picking stuff out. And so lots of groups are out there helping us out. One of the things that we are looking at now is how do we rebuild? Where do we rebuild? What is a place like Town Creek is a perfect example. I spoke to you all at that budget hearing and said $57 million to fix the thing. that area. And I'm sorry I said it. I didn't want to say it. It's a horribly large number, and it's not a realistic number. That's a number that we provide to FEMA to say, to bring it back to those pre-existing conditions, this is what that looks like. And that's just never what we'll do. But we have to supply that to FEMA. But we're looking at this from a functionality standpoint. Who needs access? Where do they need access? And how can we most efficiently make that happen? And the town creek that I think we all knew is always going to be different. More to follow on that. In that endeavor, we will work towards grants, philanthropic funding when we can, and then keep kind of pushing that volunteer effort, because I think we're going to have to do a lot of this ourselves to get it done. So the next phases, David will talk about debris removal here in a little bit. We're going to keep working on FEMA and TDEM documentation for anything that we're going to do. We're going to do all of our work compliant with those regulations, so that way, if and when the time comes for us to get reimbursed, we have done it in accordance with their rules, so we can get the maximum reimbursement for it. Keep advocating for that. Priorities for what we can fix is next, because I think we have somewhere between 65 million and $100 million worth of damage, and there's not going to be enough funding to cover all that. So what are the priorities? So we will get that list to you and triage that, and then start working on those permanent fixes for all of our projects. So that's kind of the big picture for me. Kelly has a lot more detail about what Kerr Together has been doing, so she's going to step up and take over. I'll answer any questions you have now, or if y'all want to wait until she's finished.
Questions from Mr. Hornis?
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Hagemeyer.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for having me here. My name is Kelly Hagemeyer. I am the Program Manager for Kerr Together, and this is our 1-month recovery report for the 2026, July 2026 severe weather event. So assessing the ISTAT data, we have 966 residents that were verified as being affected. 223 of those were major or destroyed. The majority of that damage being in the Kerrville city limits, with 190 homes sustaining major damage or destroyed. And so I also put up the 2025 comparisons. So while there were less affected, obviously the proportion of major and damage was longer. However, as I mentioned, this damage was more centralized in the Kerrville city limits. We also put up there the number of businesses that were affected. That was something from 2025. We were well aware that we needed to keep in mind, even though that there weren't a lot of resources, and it wasn't something that TDEM necessarily kept track of, but we felt that that was really important for our community. And then this year, we had a much larger number of businesses that were affected, and especially majorly destroyed and damaged, with 20 of those businesses being destroyed within the Kerrville city limits. So then from the TDEM verified, then we have the other list of people who have been coming in since then, or maybe didn't make it to the ISTAT, or got lost somewhere in the system. Just as Councilmember Harris and I were talking about, lots of people are still coming in just now submitting their damages. And so this is an assessment that Kerr Together has as we collect various lists that are coming from other organizations throughout the county. We're trying to cross-reference, see if we've doubled up anywhere. So that 1,200 number might go down, but given that that TDEM had verified almost 1,000 people, we're thinking that near 1,200 is much more accurate of how many people were actually affected. So as we go through with the residents of what their needs are right now, there are still residents that need muck and gut. And so as we're hearing about those people, we are putting them on a list and trying to get them with a VOAD. As Mr. Hornis mentioned, we have not quite as many resources, which also means volunteers. So a lot of those VOADs, those volunteer organizations active in disaster, they have already left. Many of them are still monitoring what needs there still are, but it's a little less organized or consistent at this time, and we're kind of having to reach out, and we're having to meet some sort of threshold in their mind to be able to collect, whether it's 50, 100, 200 volunteers for the weekend throughout, the whole state to come, and finding a place for them to stay and all of those things for them to come and to continue to do those response efforts. Debris removal, my staff is very grateful that the city and the county have a mitigation plan right now. That it was one of the main questions that we were receiving is how are we getting rid of this stuff off of our property? So we're grateful to David and his crew for working very quickly to come up with a solution. Financial assistance. Light on the Hill is currently distributing emergency financial assistance. So a lot of people losing their house or not being able to be in their house, trying to live in a house that they probably shouldn't. Maybe they lost work, they lost their car. I saw a report today that 95 households have said that that their car was affected in some way, probably lost completely. And some of those, that was just households. So some of those, they lost both cars. And then temporary housing is something else. These people who probably shouldn't be living in their home, trying to better understand what those solutions are with such little funding available at this time.
Kelly, can I ask a question on that last slide?
Oh, yes, of course.
Financial assistance, Light on the Hill. So if they come to y'all and say, hey, we need this, are they going to Light on the Hill? Is that going through y'all and Light on the Hill, or is that a totally different?
So right now, so yes, if someone comes and they have not, Light on the Hill is getting their list through Rebuild Kerr. So if someone comes to us and says, I haven't received financial assistance and I was affected, we can get them into the system. We do have a disaster case manager through Light on the Hill that is at 98 Coronado, 9 to 4. We have someone there, and they can double check if they are in the system and they haven't just gotten to them yet. They are, Beth Palmer, her goal is to write checks to 200 households every week. So that is 200 people, 200 households that they're needing to talk to every week to come through to verify, because they have their own checks and balances too. But they have done an amazing job to get through that. And so her goal was to get all of that money out within 6 weeks. Yes, ma'am.
Some of the first people that came in that first week, I know we were up and running as far as input and taking their case. So are they being called now that there is this Light on the Hill financial assistance?
Yes, we're going back through our list and data sharing and giving them and double checking with the disaster case managers to make sure that as people come in, or if we think that maybe someone got lost through cracks, to make sure that they are in their system.
Could have been one of the intakes I did, so you might want to double check those.
We will double check.
Not my skill set.
You did a wonderful job. Thank you for coming and volunteering
you're so
your
welcome.
time.
You're so welcome.
So one of the acronym soups that we got to learn very early on last year was VOADs, so those volunteer organizations active in disasters. And Kerr Together is a collaboration of local, regional, and national partners, and these VOADs are part of that. These 4 are the ones that we worked most closely with. They weren't the only ones who were in town. They were just the most consistent with checking in with us. And they also gave me closeout packets, which always makes it easier to collect data. And so Samaritan's Purse, All Hands and Hearts, Texans on Mission, and Team Rubicon. And so we're very grateful for them. We stay in constant contact with them because they're wanting to come back into the community whenever they find funding or whenever we have a large enough work order for them. This weekend, actually, the Latter-day Saints are coming into town, and so I'm coordinating with them, with that church group right now. Global Empowerment Mission has been a wonderful partner to Kerr Together. They are able to help us not only just with individuals, but also businesses. And they also manage the warehouse, which was very important from last year. Mr. Hornis can tell you plenty of nightmare stories about the warehouse from last year. And so this year, it was much more organized. We had everyone in place. And in the weeks following the disaster, Jem was able to distribute and deliver supplies to residents and other VOADs. And Kerr Together is very excited. We are working towards our 501c3, our nonprofit status, and so we are just waiting on our IRS determination letter. And so right now, Jem is Kerr Together's fiscal sponsor as we mature as a nonprofit. As I said, from last year, we really learned how important it was. Kerr Together and Kerr EDC were well aware of the economic damages from disasters and the high number of businesses that don't survive. And so that became a really high priority. And one of our great partners during this time has been Lift Fund. So Lift Fund, from the 2025 flood, was able to distribute nearly $20 million in grants and loans. And then whenever the 26 flood occurred, they shifted some additional loan money that they had just started distributing, and they shifted that to grants, and those were $10,000 grants at the time. And then we were blessed by the Community Foundation, who granted another $5 million to be towards grants. And so those grants are a maximum of $50,000. That application closed, I believe, either Thursday. It closed last week. And so there were 103 applicants. And so that money should be distributed as soon as next week. So the remaining critical needs at this point, so we continue to connect with the various funding sources to secure VOAD activity. Light on the Hill is still funding emergency financial assistance. Public assistance, so we are still working with the city and county on what infrastructure needs they have, as Mr. Hornis laid out. Temporary housing, we are collaborating with emergency housing funds and other temporary housing solutions. We're getting creative. We're looking into some RVs. I had a conversation with Drew, just clarifying where RVs could and could not be within the city limits. And so we're also working with the Parks Department to see what that would look like if we need someone to be in an RV for a longer stay, and if that would be possible at KSP, and what those funding requirements would be. Some more creative underlining concerns, agriculture. There is not many resources for agriculture. We kind of knew this last year from the disaster. Between AgriLife and the Texas Department of Agriculture, those are kind of your only two sources, and it is not quick, and it's a little cumbersome. So we're still working through a lot of fences down and stuff like that. Mold remediation, we're working to collaborate with some workshops with some of the VOADs. The free options I have are not quick, and the now options are expensive. So y'all know how that works. Private roads, we are still assessing private roads and trying to understand what that looks like between finding the equipment, a licensed operator, material, and fuel. Putting all those four together takes some time. And then the key things that Kerr together needs to officially transition into recovery is connecting with all the individuals and understanding their needs, continuing our collaboration with city and county staff on infrastructure, continuing to engage with our VOADs, and lastly, FEMA individual assistance. So I thank you as City Council and the county commissioners and our governmental affairs and everyone for collaborating with our state and federal representatives and really pushing for this declaration. And with that, any questions?
Well,
Go ahead,
sorry.
please. You're fine.
I just wanted to thank you, Kelly, because I had,
Always start with this.
I'm just going to claim I can't see what's going on. You were nice enough to let me come in, because what happens is on the street when you go visit these neighborhoods again, they have more questions, different questions, and misinformation. So I'm really, anytime I think y'all needed to go visit with Kelly or someone, I know I try to make it convenient for you because I know you're extremely busy, but it really helped me that day to get even some of this information you're giving us now so that we can relay that to the public and start to give them some hope and some confidence that, yes, you're on the radar, we're working on this debris, we're working on all of these things as best we can, as fast as we can, and the money coming in helped. I mean, getting those numbers too was a boost in the confidence that we're going to get through this. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Crystal.
No, thank you for all your very thorough updates,
No, you're welcome.
work that you're doing.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thanks very much. It's still amazing that Kerr Together is doing such a great job, and it's a little comforting in a way. We've got another disaster, but we're up and running already. So appreciate all the hard work and the coordination that you're getting accomplished.
Thank you.
I hate to be this guy.
No, that's okay.
Can you go back a couple of slides to the lift?
Which one?
Talking about the lift fund and the amount of money and keep going. Right
There.
there. So I understand the grants. Grants don't get paid back. Let's talk about this center section here that says loans, $11,883,539 in loans. I have been asked numerous times by people in the community, was that their money from the get-go? Did they have that? Is that what they're loaning? Or did they get that from other places and they're making loans off of it? You know, are they charging interest? Are they basically getting $12 million in new business because of a disaster? I am not bashing the lift fund. I am so glad they're here. They stood up and talked about the grants. But this came up last year in the very beginning when the foundation was giving out grants and people were saying, oh, it's loans, and they got to pay it back. That is not the case with the foundation. But right here it says loans. And Kelly, I'm not trying to bash anything. I'm just, people ask, I need to ask a question for the citizens of Kerrville about why it says loans.
Yeah.
And how that's working. Is the money, are they loaning only to Kerr County and Comfort to make sure it stays here? And when that money comes back in, it gets paid off? Or are they loaning that money back out to people of Kerrville and Comfort area?
So I can probably answer some of your questions, not all of them, and I can definitely get you more information from the LIFT Fund to answer those questions, because those really are valid questions, because we have worked through that also. And so the majority of their loans have been in Kerr County and Comfort just at this time because we've been working with them, but they are a national company who does help during disasters. LIFT Fund also is can be utilized not in disaster. So actually, Curry DC is looking at also partnering with them to help businesses to understand business plans and just becoming more financially secure and thinking about different ways to set up your business and just being ready and better prepared financially. The majority of those loans, I believe, were actually the interest, but they were zero interest loans. So the money that was donated to the LIFT fund was to buy down that interest. So then whenever people were paying back, it was just the principal, not the interest. I did not do well in finance class, but that is how I understand it in the best layman's term.
Okay. It's just one of those questions that's being asked, and it's a sore subject that the perception, I guess, is we have a disaster and there's a company that comes in to help on one side, but then they're loaning on the other side to be paid back, so.
Yes. Yeah. And we had the same conversations with some of the banks too. And, and so there were many that were encouraged to, talk to your bank first, see what type of loan options and what percentage they can give you. And even Lift Fund was very honest about that. Like, talk to your bank first, see what if they can maybe work with you. But some companies did find that the loan option, just because of that 0% interest, because that funding that was given was specifically to buy down the interest of the loans, just worked better for them. But I'll work with Adrienne and I'll get some more definite answers
Thank
for
you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 2C, Ms. Behrens? Oh. All
right. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'll keep it kind of brief on this, but we'll do a quick rundown on our curbside collection update, as we've been talking about earlier. From day one, we start looking at flood debris management, right? So we start looking at how we can develop systems for public input through surveys, emails, phone calls. I want to recognize Stephanie Daly and Angela North, who's on the other side of the wall, who they've been kind of the frontline folks of taking hundreds of calls and guiding people in the right direction for that. So that's critical in any kind of management process. Also evaluate our existing resources. What do we have in place? We do have a solid waste program. We're able to utilize that. Volunteers were here already on the ground, coordinating that with Kelly and her team out there, offering guidance on placement of items at the curb. Doesn't matter if we're going to pick it up, a third party's going to pick it up. There's guidelines on putting stuff out at the curb, and those were the initial questions that we're getting, so we got to have that information available. Also evaluate the options for expanded collections when that becomes available. And then last but not least is secure funding. How do we manage the cost? So we've already looking at those on the back end. And then so our initial debris management initiatives, we issued over 750 vouchers since July 16th. We typically issue about 150 to 200 vouchers a month. So we've issued 750, and those all go through Stephanie and Angela. So they've been pretty busy with just that aspect of it. We were able to obtain 14 dumpsters that I was able to place in high volume areas. Those were donated and provided quick response on deliveries. That made it challenging because everybody wanted a dumpster, but I had to make sure I place a dumpster where I can have several homes or properties utilize that dumpster. We coordinated with Kerr together for assistance with volunteers. I can place dumpsters at the curb. Who's going to load them up, right? And I didn't want the people that just went through with the flood to have to load their own stuff up. So we've had many volunteers, as Kelly mentioned in her slide, Team Rubicon, All Hands and Hearts. We had Texans on a Mission. We also had private companies assisting with equipment. Had folks from Creative Solutions that helped load up 3-4 dumpsters already. I talked to them when I was out surveying, and I said, do you mind helping me out? And they said, yes, I'll help you out. So they were able to get some equipment out there and load up those dumpsters for us. We were able to remove 420 cubic yards, which is a little over 30 tons, is what we did with that initial program with the roll-off dumpsters. Also, our city crew removed debris from 18 right-of-way sites. We did that kind of a little pilot program. ahead of what we just started yesterday, right? So this is all that's been done before our official citywide curbside collection. All that, it's running parallel with us obtaining the data. While I'm obtaining data, the surveys, verifying all that stuff, we're out doing this, right, initially. So we have been putting some work out there. So implementing the curbside collection program, we communicated with TDM for guidance. Julie and I met with them, looking at third-party operations and timelines. What does that look like? To get a third party to come in here, there's a lot of boxes that need to be checked. It's a lengthy process in order to follow FEMA guidelines. So we also looked at our operational transition from emergency operations in public works. Now that things are stabilized, what do our resources look like? You know, what can we do now to pivot from that and assist with this collection program? Met with these gentlemen here in streets and figured out, okay, are we gonna be able to handle this? Keep in mind, we had already been surveying the whole city on what's out there. So we had a good idea of what's out there, and it was manageable. We felt that we can handle that on our own. So we established a systematic process to identify, document, verify, and map out areas throughout town. That survey right there on the right-hand side, that was available online. I want to thank Josh and GIS coordinator to help out with that and get that online so folks can submit stuff, because that's important for us to be able to gauge what's out there. So the community feedback, so we did obtain several surveys, over 100. We got that data, and then we created our work orders to identify certain areas throughout town, as you can see right there. So you'll see looking for clusters, high volume areas, any safety concerns. Allowed us and our staff, I know Daniel, Chris, and other folks were out taking pictures and verifying loads and coming up with this kind of like a heat map, if you will. And also we were looking at removing any duplicates or piles that were no longer at the curb. And then at the end results, create efficient routes. So this is all important as we start our curbside program. And then we followed up with our strategic city crew collection, right? We decided for us to handle this. We evaluated the equipment, resources, spoke to these guys here and said, let's get a specialized team to focus on this mission. That way it's a core group, and that's what they're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. We also had equipment available from Parks and Rec. Jay's still here. Thanks for letting us borrow that grappler unit. Work together, helping each other out through various departments. So that was very beneficial. We do have an additional unit coming in. It's here today. Okay, so it's here. So we're able to duplicate our efforts and hopefully move things a little bit quicker. Also, again, develop the collection routes based on the submissions that we've received. We also are conducting daily recaps. I know yesterday we kicked off our collection. We were able to pick up 7 loads. About 2.5 tons is what we collected yesterday. I know it doesn't sound 6.9 at the end of today. So we're making progress. So we'll continue to have those daily recaps to make sure that things are running efficiently out there. We're running into any concerns, anything out there that we need to be aware of, so we can, alter our operations. But so far things are going great. So, and you'll see on the right side just a quick snapshot of the data that we're collecting so that we can, operate efficiently. So the initial sweep began yesterday. Began on the west side of town. We'll be heading east, as we mentioned, press releases and different messages as we're collecting flood-related debris. We want to emphasize that to everybody that it's flood-related debris, household items, construction debris, things like that. Right now, we're not collecting brush or household hazardous items. Brush is going to be conducted at a different phase. So I'll touch on what Republic is doing. Republic that's our solid waste program, right? That's utilizing one of our resources. So as our crews are moving from west to east, picking up this debris, Republic will start their brush collection second week in September. And then we'll follow back after them. They're going to pick up what's allowed per our contract. So that's helping us get some of this debris picked up by them, and then we'll follow along, pick up any remaining. So that's kind of how this phase is going to work for this brush. And again, we'll stay on route during this phase, and staff will be confirming cleared streets. That way we don't have any folks that say, our stuff was out there. So we'll have initial route inspections, then they collect the stuff. I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Sorry.
No, no, you're fine.
The green things they're different actual shapes too.
Yeah, they vary. Some of them.
Are they
this is just a-
dumpsters or,
Those are all the work orders. Those are all the.
okay,
the-
locations?
Right.
Got
Yes.
it.
So
Okay.
people submitted their surveys, and then we transferred them over to our software that we use, and that's how we're able to map out. And so the next steps, finalize the plan for vegetative debris. I submitted an application today to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality for the processing site. So we're also going to utilize our solid waste program, as I mentioned earlier, and then we'll develop those routes. There's going to be new submissions going to be coming in, right? So we're going to review them and verify them just like we did in the past. And the important thing here is for us to continue tracking all operations and expenses. Our work order software is it's actually coming in handy. It's helping out with our routes. We're having pictures, document as much stuff as we can, attach invoices. I talked to Angel during our meeting, and he was impressed with what we already have. He's like, "Oh, you guys are, yeah, you have a good system already in place." So also continued public education and update the public accordingly with what we've done and what we're going to be doing in the future. So we've done quite a bit, but there's still a lot of work ahead of us. But without our systems in place, the volunteers, dedicated staff, having a good system here, I think that makes things possible. So I'm very proud of everybody who's helped out to this point. And at this time, take any questions you may have.
Well, I thought we let you first.
Decided questions, comments?
I do not. Thank you for all your team is doing. I'm seeing it. Thank you very much.
I'm very impressed with what you've all got coordinated and organized, and so thanks for doing the good work.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
David first, thank you. Brandon, thank you. Chris, everybody, gentlemen, thank y'all for the question's been asked. Michael and I discussed it. I know the answer, but it's just what took so long? Who's paying for this? I know the answer to what took so long. Don't answer that. I'm not asking. But this is something the city is doing right now because I'm just saying it for the public to hear, but we don't have FEMA. FEMA's not here. They're not doing anything. Even when they do sign the declarations, and we are still working on that, and I know the mayor's pushing, that's 75%. And Julie, if I'm stealing some of your thunder here, but the city's still going to be responsible for 25% of whatever the total bill is, from Town Creek Road to Turtle Creek with the infrastructural problems that we had to debris cleanup. The question was asked, why did it take so long? Well, we are 1 month and 9 days from our last disaster. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Right.
Your crew, y'all's crews are out doing what they need to do. Chris, I know you were mucking Turtle Creek when the pipe broke and everything that had to be brought in to fix the sewer line that popped. So what took so long is we're trying to get our citizens' utilities fixed, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, and I've been wrong before, but that's what, number one, we got to take care of our citizens and get water back to them. Thank goodness K-Pub was on top of it and got everything fixed. But, sewer, that's what's taking so long. Second thing is I'm going to quote Councilmember McKinney. We don't have the money, but we're doing it. So please just bear with us, bear with your staff, and just know that we're trying everything that we can. And I don't mean not to look on this side of the road either, but but from Michael and Kim and Dalton all the way down, from everybody upstairs, thank y'all, because it's not an easy task. It's not an easy thing to do. And then when you're out there trying to do your absolute best and help the citizens, and you have people making comments, it's
Right.
just,
Right.
thank you.
No, you're welcome. And I'll just make a quick point on that is yes, our initial operations were to tend to critical infrastructure across the board in public works. I mean, we were hit pretty hard. So, folks are always going to start putting debris out initially. Last year, the state was handling this debris cleanup, and they jumped on it right away through their process, right? Even back then, we still had our system in place where we told the state, we have our addresses ready last year. So this year, it's on us, we had looked at either a third party or if we can do it. Either way, you have to do things the right way so you can seek proper reimbursement. So now we're able to pivot towards that. And you don't want to initially have a debris cleanup right away because you're going to run in circles all day long. So I think now it's a systematic approach. We're sweeping the city. And folks are understanding out there. We've talked to several people they're very thankful for us. They understand we've been busy doing other stuff. And so yeah, they're cooperating and they're understanding. Real quick, I know I mentioned Stephanie and Angela, but also Brandon Kelly, Isaac Rodriguez, and Joel Miners with Street. So just want to recognize them as well for their efforts in being able to pivot from all the other street stuff we've been doing. This is mainly a solid waste task, but we don't have a true solid waste division. But these guys from Streets have been able to pivot, into that. So outside of this, we're still tending to regular operations that we have to. So I just wanted to recognize them as well.
I guess one last thing, I'm sorry, Delane. Vouchers. I know what they are, we know what they're for.
Right.
But there's been a lot of comments, and it's not the city of Kerrville that runs the landfill. That's for Public Waste Services. And if they say you can't bring drywall in on the vouchers, we've got to respect what their rules are, but is there any talk of leniency on that from Republic for people that have the vouchers or have debris that needs, because it happened again. I mean, the mayor, we all kind of walked around and saw neighborhoods that had 3 foot of drywall that had to be cut out of the house with, wet insulation. And they don't take contracting debris on the vouchers.
Right. So that is per our contract, and that's something that we'll be looking at, I guess, when we do sort of an after action review. But Republic has been very helpful in other aspects. The voucher system, Republic's not set up to have that in place during a disaster recovery. It will eat into their numbers, right? Their bottom line. This voucher system is meant for just regular, stuff that you can bring from the house. There's other reasons why they don't allow construction debris initially. People abuse it. There's been contractors that have been doing commercial work and they use a voucher from their home and they charge a customer to dispose it, and then they come and get their voucher and they take construction debris and they don't pay for it. So there's a lot of those instances that happen. And I'm not saying just here, just in general. They're a corporate company, so they have their rules to stand by. But I was able to work with Republic on some of the piles that were out there and say, okay, look, they have construction debris. They also have household items. Can I use their voucher, leave the construction debris? I'll take the other items. That's the initial phase that I talked about earlier. And they worked with me on that, say, yes, I'll let your guys, because I'm setting my eyes on it. I said, I'm verifying. I took pictures. I have documentations. I have all the work orders. Those were the initial, I think, 18 sites that we picked up. I was able to utilize that. So Republic, they have been helping out, and then the remaining stuff is what we're picking up now as part of our curbside program.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
I want to echo, thank you, all of you. Thank you for all you've done. We'll get to Julie in just a sec, but one thing that hasn't been mentioned today that should be is the crews that cleared the way for the cemetery on Town Creek Road. I know of 2 families that had to wait to bury their loved ones because there was no access to those cemeteries. So thank you for helping those families get closure. It meant a lot to them, and they are really grateful. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And for the I'll get you. And for the picking up the stuff and having a plan, not waiting for outside help. Thank you for doing that too. I
Yes,
really
sir. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry, wasn't pushing you. Brandon, I remember you met me at 5:30 last year in the morning to block a street for the Water Street Festival. That's the first time I met you, and I remember thinking you were jolly at 5:30. I was just very thankful for your help, and of course, I need you again this year. But thank you for what you're doing above and beyond your call of duty. The question I had was, some of the folks I met, I might not still be back in their home, and if you were to go to their address, you wouldn't find them. So if they don't have access to a computer, or what should I tell people? Should they go to Kerr Together for debris, for it to be put on the map, or just for, an understanding of what they will get to put out? And
Yeah.
I know what it is, but how can they find that information?
So Kelly and I had that conversation earlier, and I think we want to continue that as
Okay, go to
as
Kerr
a
Together.
communication route. But folks can call our office here, 830-257-8000, and then just ask to speak to somebody in Public Works. And 10 times out of 10, Stephanie will take that call, and then she'll be able to direct them, or even create a new work order. And so, yeah, we'll handle it that way.
Really,
But yeah,
most
through
people
Kelly or
know
through
by now,
us.
but
So either way is fine.
very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Julie, are you up?
I have nothing unless you have questions.
You're listed on the agenda.
I'm here for
Wow, I
support.
didn't know you could do that. That's
You'll have to
great.
listen to me later, I'm saving my voice.
All right, if there's no further questions or comments, there's no need to go into executive session. I'm going to go ahead and close the workshop at 5:21.